Oh, me. Yeah. Thank you. Here.
Yeah.
Before wireless.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Thanks for being here today. I want to first welcome my longtime friend and San Francisco City Attorney, David Chu, who you'll be hearing from shortly, as well as Gabriel Medina, Executive Director of La Raza Community Resource Center, and also Larry Yi, President of the Lee Family Association, a member of the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association. We'll hear from everyone shortly. We'll do some questions after. And before we get into it, I want to recognize my team in the Civil Rights Enforcement section at the California Department of Justice, who've been working overtime, literally around the clock, especially the last 24 hours. Without them, what I'm about to talk about wouldn't be possible. I am deeply disappointed that we're here one day into the new administration, and also not at all surprised. In the hours after President Trump was sworn into office, he issued an onslaught of disastrous and damaging executive orders, including one that seeks to end birthright citizenship. In one fell swoop, he stripped the constitutional right to citizenship for children who will be born of their parents' immigration status. The president chose to start his second term by knocking down one of our country's foundational, long-standing rights and disregarding our nation's governing document. A terrifying tone to set for the rest of his term. Sadly, this order and many others come as no shock. Trump is following through on a campaign promise. Today, I'm also following through on a promise to take action if Trump violates the law and infringes on our rights, on your rights, as he did today with what is, frankly, an un-American executive order. I have one message for President Trump. I'll see you in court. We are filed. Our case is filed now as we speak, moments ago, in the District of Massachusetts in the First Circuit. This morning, as stated, the lawsuit challenging President Trump's unconstitutional executive order is on file. It has multiple grounds. It states that the executive order violates the 14th Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. It violates our U.S. Constitution. It also violates the Immigration and Nationality Act and flouts more than 125 years, a century and a quarter, of long-standing, well-established precedent set by the U.S. Supreme Court. The president has overstepped his authority by a mile, and we will hold him accountable. I'm asking the court for a preliminary injunction to immediately block this order from taking effect and ensure that the rights of the many American-born children harmed by it should be in effect while the litigation proceeds. Fortunately, I do not stand alone. I'm joined by my co-leads, the Attorneys General from Massachusetts and New Jersey, as well as Attorneys General from 15 other states around the country, as well as Washington, D.C., and the great city and county of San Francisco. I want to be clear that this isn't some theoretical legal disagreement I have with the president. If allowed to stand, this order would endanger thousands of U.S. citizens who will be born in the next year, real children and families just trying to live their lives in peace. It would strip Americans of their most basic rights and the privileges they're owed as citizens. Children would be forced to live under the threat of deportation. The fear, anxiety, and trauma of that alone is enormously detrimental to their mental and emotional well-being. They lose the ability to obtain Social Security numbers and a passport. When they grow up, they wouldn't be able to work legally. They wouldn't be able to vote. serve on juries, and run for certain political offices. They'd lose eligibility for a wide range of federal programs, such as federal food and housing assistance, federal financial aid for students, and more. This stands to impact more than 20,000 babies born each year in California who would have been citizens who should be citizens. On top of the impact on vulnerable, innocent children and their families, this order will directly harm our state, the great state of California. California will lose critical federal funding for programs that thousands of people rely on, including Medi-Cal and the Children's Health Insurance Program, commonly referred to as CHIP. The state's ability to receive federal funding for those programs and others hinges on the immigration status of the persons they're serving, not to mention the massive administrative burden this will put on California agencies that will have to alter their operations immediately to implement changes by February 19th, when the order goes into effect. Changes that will come at considerable expense. The ripple effect of this order on families, communities, and our state is truly devastating. Birthright citizenship is foundational to our nation's history, to California's history, to our very identity. Let's be clear, it's not new, not at all radical. It's a tradition that dates back to the beginning of our nation's history. In the Supreme Court's infamous Dred Scott decision, the court wrongly denied birthright citizenship to descendants of slaves. That terrible decision, a stain on our nation's history, along with slavery, was remedied after the Civil War by the 14th Amendment to our Constitution. The amendment promises, the Citizenship Clause of the U.S. Constitution states, quote, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. It's a right that has already been challenged in the U.S. Supreme Court twice, and twice upheld. One such case centered around a San Francisco-born Chinese American named Wong Kim Ark, and I know the city attorney will talk more about this, who successfully sued the United States when he was denied entry back into his own country after visiting family in China. Officials wrongly claimed he wasn't a citizen. In 1898, the Supreme Court took up Mr. Ark's case and affirmed that children born to immigrants in the U.S., like Ark, could not be denied citizenship. That case was 125 years ago, over 125 years ago. The questions around birthright citizenship have been asked and answered. This is settled. This is established, resolved in the highest court of the land, the U.S. Supreme Court. This is done and dusted. This is decided. Birthright citizenship should not be up for debate. Of course, to Trump, law and order, judicial precedents, constitutional rights have little bearing. He does what he wants to do, when he wants to do it, how he wants to do it, regardless of the law, unfortunately. In California, we won't allow that. As California's chief law enforcement officer, I won't allow that. I won't allow our president to willfully violate the U.S. Constitution and violate the rights of U.S. citizens and get away with it. So we're in court. Make no mistake, we're a nation of immigrants. It's in our DNA, especially here in California. We're home to more immigrants than any other state, 11 million strong, nearly half from Latin America, more than 40% from Asia, making up almost 30% of our population. Immigrants who contributed and contribute enormously to our workforce, fuel our economic might and strength and power, who make up 1 in 3 of our workers, who pay taxes, who bring in new ideas, innovations, and perspectives, who grow our food, run flourishing businesses, and lead our communities, who enliven our cities with their rich cultures and favorite traditions. Immigrants who are our neighbors, our friends, our loved ones. Families who came from across Latin America, Asia, and around the world dreaming, longing for a better life. a brighter future for their children, for opportunity that they didn't have. People like my own mom, who was born and raised in the Philippines, who had me in the Philippines and came here lawfully with me in tow at 2 months old when she feared the rise of a dictator and martial law in her home country, which were both around the corner, who lived here legally with a green card for many years and eventually became a citizen so she could vote for me in my first election. In California, we stand by our immigrant communities. We stand up for our immigrant communities because we know our diversity is both our story and our strength. It makes us great. It makes us strong. As California Attorney General, I will always defend that belief. I will always protect Californians, including our immigrants and their children. I will always enforce and defend our laws. Immigrants are and always will be welcome in California. I'm here to make sure of it. The executive orders Trump released yesterday may be the first, but we can be sure they're not the last. Between Trump 1.0, Project 2025, and his campaign promises, we've had a good idea of what's to come, and we've been preparing. My team is actively reviewing each order, and you can be sure that where we see laws violated, rights trampled on, freedoms attacked, we will take action. We are ready to take on the challenges of a second Trump administration to ensure that in California our progress will continue and that our progress will prevail. We will be here to choose calm over chaos, belonging over blame, unity over division, us and we over I and me. To stand on the side of law and order, respect the history of this nation, protect the rights of our people. It's who we are in the Golden State. Nothing and no one can change that. No matter who is in the White House, no matter who holds control of Congress in California, we're going to keep moving forward. We're going to stay on our path of progress. Before I close, I again want to express my appreciation for my team at DOJ, who prepared this lawsuit and who are working tirelessly to defend the rights of all Californians as our nation embarks on this new chapter. They don't do it for the recognition, but I'm going to embarrass them anyway. Denise Levy, Irina Tresovin, Marissa Maloof, Christina Bull-Arndt, Michael Newman, Damon Brown, Francesca Gesner, Danielle O'Bannon, thank you. I appreciate your work. I'm honored to be your colleague. Thank you for all you have done, are doing, will continue to do. Thank you for getting us to this very important point in this litigation. I will now turn it over to my great friend and the incredible City Attorney of the San Francisco City Attorney's Office, David Chu.
Good morning. I want to thank all of you for being here, and so it begins. Let me start by thanking our great Attorney General Bonta for his leadership on so many fronts, particularly during these times that we find ourselves in. AG Bonta and I have worked side by side over many years in many fights for justice, and I greatly appreciate the opportunity for myself, our office, the City and County of San Francisco, to team up with AG Bonta, his great Department of Justice, and your state attorney general colleagues around the country on this lawsuit. And taking a lead from him, I also want to take a moment and recognize my staff who have been working round the clock in recent weeks on this. Yvonne Moret, David Lauk, Molly Alicon, Molly Lee, who's not here, Jen Quart, Kenneth Chen, and others. Yesterday, Donald Trump made good on his campaign promise to target our immigrant communities, our family members, our workforce. Immigrants have made our country great, are crucial to our economic success, are central to our nation's social and cultural fabric. This is a tragedy, as our nation can no longer stand true to the promise of the Statue of Lady Liberty and America's history of welcoming immigrants. Now, before this week, we've heard Donald Trump repeatedly and blatantly disregard the rule of law. With his executive order ending birthright citizenship, acting without legal authority, Donald Trump continues to cast aside longstanding constitutional principles. As our AG described, birthright citizenship was enshrined in the Constitution in 1868 with the post-Civil War ratification of the 14th Amendment. And if I may plainly state it again, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the U.S. and of the state wherein they reside. It is simple, it is clear, it is plain. The 14th Amendment's guarantee is regardless of race, color, or background. And this principle, grounded in fairness and accountability and inclusivity, has remained constitutional bedrock for 157 years. The story of birthright citizenship is as San Francisco as they come. San Francisco has a unique connection to birthright citizenship when one of our very own citizens stood up for his constitutional right in the late 1800s. Wong Kim Ark was born in San Francisco on Sacramento Street to immigrant parents. He became a cook. In 1895, while traveling back from China to his home in San Francisco, he was denied re-entry back in the U.S. due to the Chinese Exclusion Act. And despite the anti-immigrant era and anti-Chinese bigotry, as well as the fact that the then U.S. Solicitor General was prosecuting his case, Wong Kim Ark had the courage to challenge this decision. Chinese family networks pulled resources through the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association to provide him with legal counsel. And I want to thank the leadership of the CCBA for being here, and you will hear from them momentarily. In 1898, the U.S. Supreme Court recognized Wong Kim Ark's citizenship, reaffirming the 14th Amendment principle that anyone born in our country is a citizen. And that case has been the law of the land for 127 years. Now, overturning this 127-year precedent is contrary to our American values and a ruthless attack on newborns and future generations of Americans. Ending birthright citizenship would impede their integration and their assimilation into society, their educational and economic future, and that hurts all of us. To deny some children the basic rights that other children in our country have will create a permanent, multi-generational underclass of those who will have been born in our country but will never have lived anywhere else and be effectively stateless. These children will not be able to naturalize or obtain citizenship from another country. They will live under constant threat of deportation, and as they age, they won't be able to work lawfully or vote. They will have limited ability to travel and will be challenged in accessing health care. Now, like our Attorney General, this is personal to me. As the first child born in this country to my immigrant parents, this is personal to a large majority of San Franciscans, of Californians, and Americans who are either immigrants or the children of immigrants. It will be so harmful to our economy, in addition to creating intense personal chaos for so many in our community. I'll note that this executive order will also result in the loss of federal funding to state and local governments such as San Francisco. For example, San Francisco is responsible for administering federal state-funded public benefits programs like CalWorks and CalFresh. San Francisco receives funding based in part on the number of eligible recipients, and eligibility is determined by proof of a valid Social Security number. Without Social Security numbers, San Francisco cannot verify otherwise eligible newborns who qualify for these programs. This executive order will result in the direct loss of significant federal funding to San Francisco to provide aid and administer these programs. San Francisco, on the other hand, will still have to bear the inherent costs of caring for our residents, whether or not they have Social Security numbers and are eligible for assistance. Let me close by saying that I am here, our AGs, others, we're here and hopeful that our federal judges will take their oaths of office seriously, that they will uphold long-standing constitutional principles and do the right thing. And we look forward to litigating this in the courts alongside our Attorney General. This moment, I'd like to introduce from the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, the association that many, many years ago helped to defend Wong Kim Ark, Larry Yi, to say a few words.
First of all, my name is Larry Yi from the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association, past president, and with me I have my president from the Samyup, Stephen Liu, and also lead Ding Li. He's our historical chair. So I want to also thank Attorney General Rob Bonta for fighting this fight, along with our city attorney, David Chiu, and all our community's members who has stand with this birthright. The Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association took this on 128 years ago. Before it went to the Supreme Court, we challenged it and we supported Wong Kim Ark in his right to be having the birthright citizenship that we all enjoy. I know myself, as a child of an immigrant too, and I can see the benefits that to hold this birthright and make it the 14th Amendment still, whatever Trump says, we need to fight it and fight it to the max and continue to fight this. I know it's going to be a tough fight. This guy will probably throw the kitchen sink at us, but the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association mandate this 127 years ago, that birthright is our right, is our civil right, is our economic right, and we'll continue to fight this. And again, thank you again, Attorney General Rob Bonta, City Attorney David Chiu, and all the Attorney Generals throughout the states. We need to continue this fight. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Gabriel Medina. I'm the Executive Director with La Raza Community Resource Center here in San Francisco for the last 55 years. With me is Del Medina, one of our board members for La Raza Community Resource Center. We are a family resource center and immigration legal defense center, as well as a basic needs center. And we serve as a bridge between newcomer families and San Francisco. And I'm very grateful to the Attorney General Rob Bonta today for introducing this, standing up for our civil rights, and also for City Attorney David Chiu as well. Thank you so much, consistently fighting for our civil rights here in San Francisco. Last night I was watching, kind of the executive orders being rolled out on the news with my grandma in Oak Grove. She's 93 years old. Her, my mom, and my great grandma all came here as immigrants from Mexico. And on the news popped up Attorney General Rob Bonta's face saying, "We will fight for your rights." So just my grandma cannot hear, but on the script it says, "I will fight for your rights. You have rights. I will fight for you. I'll protect you." And I want to thank that. That gives a lot of inspiration, not just to my grandma and my family, but immigrants all over the state, all over the country, that there are people fighting for our civil rights. And that's what I want to thank the Attorney General for doing that. The 14th Amendment, obviously, I'm a beneficiary of being born of immigrant, my mom and my grandma and my great grandma. So I want to thank for that. I want to also make sure that people know, any immigrant family, immigrant child knows they should continue to go to school. They need to continue to go to school, continue to receive services, continue to visit food pantries, continue to show up for your immigration appointments, continue to work whatever you can do, because I know that San Francisco will fight for your rights, and I know that with the leaders here, we can do that. And I also want to urge, just any families that are out there, if they see, any reports, just make sure to call the Rapid Response Hotline. We're proudly a member of SF Immigration Legal Education Network, SF Immigration Legal Defense Collaborative, and the Rapid Response Network. And it's just very important to make sure to call the hotlines to make sure we can respond quickly and provide adequate legal representation. But just make sure that you continue to receive services. And I want to thank all the leaders here and the Chinese Consolidated Benevolent Association as well for the historic fight for our civil rights. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let me thank again Gabriel and Larry and my great friend and incredible leader, San Francisco City Attorney David Chu, for being here and standing together on this important issue, on this important morning. And I do want to say just two quick things. We'll open up the questions. One, there's a way if you seek to amend the U.S. Constitution to do so. It's spelled out in black and white, right in the U.S. Constitution. You got to get 2/3 votes in both houses of the U.S. Congress and then get 3/4 of the states to ratify. That's how you do it. You can't do it by executive order. As the President of the United States, you definitely have a good amount of authority, but it is not unlimited. And you absolutely cannot unilaterally amend the U.S. Constitution. So this is an attack on children. It's an attack on U.S. citizens. It's an attack on our foundational document, the U.S. Constitution, and we will not let it stand. We will see Mr. Trump in court, and we will help ensure that the right to birthright citizenship continues and lives on. With that, I can open it up to any questions. Yeah.
Attorney General Bonta, is it a concern at all financially that the legislature has to pass the legal defense fund, or is that more of a stopgap for anticipated lawsuits going forward?
The $25 million in the special session?
Yeah.
Not worried. It's moving forward. We expect it to pass. Of course, there's a process and a timeline to do that, so it's all expected. No concerns. We're grateful for the governor pushing for the $25 million and the legislature for considering it. We hope and believe that it will get passed, especially seeing all these executive orders, the need to ramp up our operation, the importance of protecting fundamental constitutional rights, as well as pulling down important federal dollars. A $25 million investment will have massive ROI in terms of the federal dollars that we'll get. When in Trump 1.0, it was billions of dollars that our lawsuits led to California receiving. So not concerned. If they need time to think about it and go through their process, they ought to. But we're grateful for the consideration and hopeful for the funding to come through soon.
Are you going to be able to say it in Spanish or say anything in Spanish?
Not from here.
Is this lawsuit and the Attorney General's lawsuit separate from the ACLU lawsuit over this executive order? Are they concurrent? Will they be rejoined?
It's separate. The ACLU's lawsuit is filed in the same circuit, but a different district court. I think they're in the District of New Hampshire. We're in the District of Massachusetts. They could be related at some point, and certainly they will rise to the same circuit. So there has been some discussion between us and them. We're very aware, and we're not surprised by their filing. I'm sure they're very aware and not surprised by ours. They are representing organizational plaintiffs as well as individuals. We were representing states and the city and county of San Francisco and the District of Columbia. So I believe they're aligned and all part of the same important effort to protect and defend birthright citizenship.
And it's possible that this could go to the Supreme Court. Legal scholars say it's not likely the Supreme Court will reverse the previous decision, especially if it's been the law of the land for over 100 years. But theoretically, they could decide to reinterpret the 14th Amendment. How concerned are you about that, and how prepared are you for that?
Not concerned on the substance. Feel very strongly in the merits of our case. The well-established precedent of birthright citizenship multiple times in the highest court in the land. The plain and unambiguous language of the citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment. We feel very strongly. And could this case go to the U.S. Supreme Court? Of course it could. It's filed in federal court. It could and will likely be appealed, whatever the result in the district court, and could get to the U.S. Supreme Court. But I think you give us an objective forum where we can present the law and the facts. We feel very confident in our likelihood of prevailing on the merits.
What is the timeline on this legal action against the executive order? What can we expect before that order goes into effect?
You know, the order is interesting in its effective date. It's an order issued yesterday, but effective in 30 days. I think that's good for us because we can file and before anyone is harmed, present our arguments to a court so that they can prevent anyone from being harmed before the effective date 30 days out. So it is interesting and different in some ways than an executive order that is effective upon its issuance. There's a 30-day delay. I have no idea why. You have to ask the Trump administration about that. But I think it works in our favor to provide an opportunity for deliberation and consideration by a judicial body to receive and review our arguments and make a sound decision. And we think that sound decision is to strike down immediately and enjoin any implementation of the executive order 30 days from now.
Which other executive orders signed yesterday by Trump can we expect you to potentially challenge in court?
I'll say we're reviewing all of them. This one jumped off the page as one that needed immediate legal action by us in the States and San Francisco. Others are interesting in their design. They ask for more information to be reported back to the president in some certain amount of days. So it's information gathering on an issue that, should that information lead to action, could be a reason for us to file a lawsuit. But just the fact gathering part itself does not, we don't believe, is ripe for litigation immediately. Some of the ramp up that could lead to the deployment of military to be involved with immigration enforcement. We'll have to see what the military actually does, what their role is. Are they directly involved in immigration enforcement on American soil, or are they in a support role or something else? Some of it will be fact specific, so we'll have to see how the order is implemented on the ground and assess that. Our North Star is what the federal government, is what the Trump administration doing unlawful until we're certain and have a good faith, strong belief that it is. We won't act. If they act lawfully, there is absolutely nothing for us to do. And honestly, I hope for that. Not a lot to ask for your president to act lawfully. But if he doesn't, as he has not here with this birthright citizenship executive order, we will act. We will act swiftly. We will act decisively. We will act aggressively. So we're monitoring all of the executive orders. We don't expect yesterday's executive orders to be an exhaustion of all executive orders that Mr. Trump will issue. There could be more today. We're watching all of them, and we're looking for that moment where it crosses the threshold and is illegal, at which point we will act.
In the event that this isn't resolved as quickly as you hope, what happens to the kids as they're moving through the courts?
Well, our hope is that we get an injunction and that we get the executive order enjoined, halted, stopped, not implemented while we litigate the case. That is an important part of our action, to put a hold, to put a stop on any implementation, and then we continue to discuss it, move it through the district court, perhaps the appellate court, maybe the U.S. Supreme Court. But that whole time, our hope is that there is no adverse consequences from the EO on children. Any other questions? Thank you.
A lot of people coming, specifically to San Francisco. I met this woman. She was pregnant a couple of months ago. She definitely gave birth here. She's still homeless. What is the message to the community, especially Latino community, that is not only fearing what Trump is doing now, but also being homeless in San Francisco?